Today editorial page at Marcy's Gates. Pardon survives as an act of grace despite all the taints put on it by the powerful down his team. He said he would not do it, but Biden did it. He has given his son Hunter a full pardon, but motivated presidential pardons are not at all new to US. Next up, Trump is likely to pardon those convicted in relation to the January 6th attack. Only if he also does a self pardon will it be a first. It's a very different state of affairs in India. Presidents make news for how indulgent they have been with pardons, not how self seeking. Pranab Mukherjee, for example, rejected 30 mercy petitions and pardon for convicts, while Pratibha Patel commuted 34 mercy pleas and rejected only 5. A look around the world shows that the pardon is not only a common part of constitutional schemes, its entanglement in political and business interest is widespread. Since its democratic reforms of 1987, so South Korea has seen as many as 4 presidents pardoned. The count of Chavel Sion and exists so favored runs much longer. In Brazil, presidential pardons are a Christmas tradition, rescuing an electric era from prisoners in poor health to military personnel convicted of negligent excess. It is understandable that critics have come to see the power to pardon as archaic, arbitrary, and inequitable rather than an act of grace. Its philosophical roots, however, are deep and powerful. In the work of Hannah Arendt, forgiveness is a key political and legal act for moving ahead after massive moral injury. The issue is not innocence, but allowing all concerned to begin again. Her interpreters see democratic transfer of power itself as based in an implicit act of pardon. When Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon after the Watergate scandal, as also when Jimmy Carter pardoned the Vietnam draft invaders, many contemporaries criticized the choices and as unethical, but over the decades they have come to be seen more as acts of national healing, allowing US in arrended words to begin again. Once this was a power vested in monarchy and in religion. Despite a history going back to antiquity, it's difficult to find any chapters minus the taint of corruption. In the 16th century, Erasmus found himself tormented by the papacy, flogging, forget, pardons for real sins. That the concept lives into the present should not only be seen from the cynical perspective. After all, the idea of mercy will never lose all its human and public purposes. The next editorial is Jobs for Boys. Good that IIT Bombay is reviewing student led placement process which has network bias. Allegations of bias against student lead placement officers in engineering and management colleges are not new. That's why IIT Bombay's move to set up a faculty led panel to review the placement process cannot be seen as simply responding to graduates' complaints. It may be one of the several reasons why this year just 75% students from the premier institute were offered jobs, a new law leaving 25% without placement, including a smattering that opted for further education. The lowest package at IITB placement in 2023, rupees 6 lakh per annum, dipped to rupees 4 lakh per annum this year. Then IIT graduate had to settle for rupees 4 lakh to 6 lakh yearly salary, yet many of those 25% were snapped up effortlessly in their individual job hunt, reason enough for management to concede to a process review. IIM Kozhikode and BITS Pilani administration will oversee placement given the cutthroat competition to get well paying jobs in a not so hot jobs market. Placement cells turn power centers. When placement cells are stepped by student big guns, flaunting privileges and networks alongside brains, a friend and followers filter can effortlessly get slipped in. After all, networking is survival, starting with the nursery admission. Admission mismatch during placement is likely one reason why for both employers and IIT interns PPOs are turning into a popular avenue to secular job. It's a safety net from possible manipulation during placement. Every youngster who makes it to IIT has a grueling teenage, not just the smart. They put their young lives on hold to follow brutal academic regimes at great cost, both financial and on mental health, to not then receive fair and equal treatment at the point of placement. The purpose it all not only impacts individual careers and futures, but greatly damages institutional repute. Students have a right to transfer in placement process. IITB committee findings must be made public. The another editorial is The Great Escape. The world might be all set to witness a new wave of international refugees and illegal migrants. Juk Suraya. The world is bracing itself for an additional flood of refugees and illegal migrants seeking sanctuary from civil strife, despotism, and persecution. In many parts of the world, voices have been raised in sympathy and support of those escaping from what they perceive to be a clear and present danger, if not to life, then certainly to liberty. Never mind the pursuit of happiness. To compound the crisis was the unpredicted suddenness with which it developed, catching not just the affected populace but the whole wide world unprepared for what was to befall. Unlike places such as Sudan, Ethiopia, and Afghanistan, which have long histories of conflict, dispossession, and poverty, the region that is now the source of disparate migration was not known to be susceptible susceptible to such vicissitudes as are countries which along which belong to what is dismissively written of as the third world, a term which those with a bent for lavatorial jocularity term the third world. Indeed, the epicenter of the current upheaval had long been viewed as a destination of universal desire, a a, cornu- a cornucopian land of milk and money, where the grass was a greener shade of green that was to be found anywhere else on the planet. True, in this idyllic realm of bliss, there were the occasional hiccups. For instance, there seemed to be genetic predisposition in the makeup of elements within the general population which caused them to undergo a severe, often violent reaction when exposed to those of different skin pigmentation than themselves. Despite such minor drawbacks, this hallowed domain remained the promised land for the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Then a literally earth-shaking event caused a reverse flow of migration, initially into New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, but other countries, notably Mexico, could also soon be swamped by a human tsunami. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, a huge wall that had long been in the news was being repurposed, asked if it was meant to keep people out. Its chief proponent exclaimed, Heck no, it's now gonna be used to stop people from running away and keep them in.